Good evening, Constant Reader. I'm Bradford.
And I'm Bradford.
And this is Spooky Time with Bradford and Bradford.
We're going to be watching every spooky movie connected to the Stephen King universe, and then review it from the perspective of Gen X.
And Gen Z.
Why? To find the spookiest, creepiest, scariest Stephen King movie of all time.
So let's begin at the beginning with the 1976 classic that started it all, Carrie.
The girl no one likes.
We're all sorry about this incident, Cassie.
It's Carrie!
Carrie White is a young woman who needs no introduction on this channel, but we're going to introduce her anyway.
Imagine the one misfit at high school, the social pariah without any friends, the girl who is the brunt of every joke and the punching bag of every bully, the one who was raised in a fringe religious household and victimized by years of abuse. Now imagine that same tormented teenage girl develops telekinesis. That is the storm that we have brewing with the film Carrie.
Slay.
All right, Bradford, so I'm Gen X. My introduction to Carrie, the film, didn't happen until I was in my early 20s, but when I was a kid, I saw movie posters. I would see it on the VHS video stores that I would wander around, and so I was very intrigued, but really had no idea what this movie was about. I knew that she was covered in blood and in a prom dress, but I didn't know that it was pig's blood. I thought something really, really violent happened that she was the cause of. And of course, that does happen, but it doesn't happen the way I first imagined it. What are your first memories of Carrie?
I think I grew up with a lot more spoilers just because the film is so iconic. So I did know about the pig's blood and the iconic like prom scene, spilling, prank, betrayal. And I saw this probably around high school age, but I didn't relate to it that much because you homeschooled me. So just probably, I mean, I probably knew a lot of Carries, but they had like a fine time. They were just ultra religious and homeschooled and not bullied because of it.
Let me ask you this, if you want to answer. Did you relate to Carrie and her relationship with her mom? Carrie was not homeschooled, but I do get homeschool mom vibes from Carrie's mom.
I probably had a lot of childhood friends that could have been Carrie. Like they didn't snap because they weren't bullied, but they probably still had home issues.
We've gone down a funny road already. All right, so what we're looking for, among other things, is we're hoping to find the scariest Stephen King movie. This is the first one we're watching and reviewing, so it's obviously going to be the top of the list. But to find out how scary something is, we are going to be focusing on the concept, the sound, and the visuals. So let's start talking about the concept. So one of the main concepts is the idea that a tormented, horribly bullied, basically abused young woman attains these incredible powers, and then everything culminates into that one moment where she has this quintessential teenage experience where she becomes the queen of the prom. It's a magical moment, but everything goes to hell when the pig blood falls on her. When the blood falls on her, that's this turning point moment. She's had these flashes of telekinetic power, but now she is in a trance and she goes ballistic. There's chaos. There's a lot of death and destruction, a lot of fire and flames. And then she goes on her little rampage outside of the school.
That scene in the movie garners more sympathy for Carrie, maybe, and it also garners more sympathy for everyone in the building because it feels like maybe some of them are laughing, but she also just thinks that they're laughing at her. And so it makes them feel like more realistic, just like, yeah, we're just at a high school prom and this just happened. it's just a weird thing that happened rather than a conspiracy of the entire student body.
Now, I hadn't thought of this until someone left a comment on the book club channel, and they said that they interpreted when everybody's laughing, they interpreted that as Carrie sort of subconsciously using her powers to make them laugh.
Oh.
Not just that she is imagining them laugh, but she's making them laugh. What do you think of that theory?
I like that a lot. I think it's kind of like the same effect, whether or not she's physically making them laugh or just realistically hallucinating that they're laughing. It does the same thing to her, at least.
One of the things that freaks me out the most in this scene is not just, the students, getting electrocuted and the chaos, but the very well-meaning teacher, she dies in a really brutal way. And that doesn't happen in the book. In the book, she's one of the survivors. Do you remember how you reacted when you saw the teacher die?
Yeah, I think that is the part that cements the idea that this is just almost like a natural disaster at this point, because it's like, sure, the bad kids are getting their comeuppance kind of, but it's also just like a fire in the gym, and that's why it's scary a little bit to me, because she's not discerning who is facing her wrath at this point. Also, does Tommy just die from getting the bucket on his head?
Yeah, that the bucket injures him severely, so really that's even without the psychic stuff, this would still be a horrible tragedy.
Because Tommy just dies from a bucket falling on his head.
We haven't talked about Carrie White's mom and her role in the concept of this film.
I personally think that the mother-daughter relationship in Carrie is one of the more scary parts of the film. All of those scenes are the ones that fill me with the most tension and unease, especially like after she snaps, she just goes back to her house and we're reminded that she's just like a kid, and then the weird force of her mother is she's already off the rails at that point. And I think that to me is a nice touch, because it feels like, the climactic scene has already happened, but there's still turmoil at home, so it keeps the tension for a long time. I think she's kind of realistic in that she switches tactics almost to get her daughter to stay by sobbing instead of yelling. And I think that like the switching of tactics is almost even more sinister, because it's like what an abusive parent would do.
Yeah, she becomes very sniveling in that scene.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the sound effects and the music. What are your thoughts?
The most obvious part of the score are these little like violin stings that happen, especially during the first half of the movie. I mean, they remind me a lot of like Psycho. Some of them are at very obvious moments where Carrie is like first discovering telekinesis and she makes something move. And some of them I feel like are at unexpected moments. And at first I was like, this is jarring and weird, but I like that they're not as obvious. I like that they do more for the movie than just like help a jump scare be scary.
There's something that's very 70s to me about the soft, soothing music that's playing for a long time before tragic or scary things happen or a hand pops out of the grave. I can't decide if I like that soft 70s music or not. It's so ingrained that I guess it works.
Maybe because of the music, or it's coincidental, but all of the parts where that like soft 70s music is playing are all of the parts where I'm like, okay, she's walking and she's still walking, and now what's gonna happen?
So it slows it down for you.
Like help center waiting music. I'm on hold with the same people. Maybe that's why it feels slow, because it's like hold music, so I think I'm waiting for a long time.
All right, the visuals. So the 70s. This is filmed in the 70s. It takes place in the 70s. So there's John Travolta is a 70s icon, and he is in this movie. There's a lot of 70s aspects to this, and so I do feel nostalgic when I watch this. But there's something that kind of bugs me about how so many movies of this era, and maybe still today, will use actors in their mid to sometimes late 20s to play high school students. So for me, Sissy Spacek, I was actually surprised to learn that she was 26 when she is in this movie, because she looks like the part. She looks like she's, 18, 17 or 18. So she pulls it off.
I bet it's also the hair and makeup design of Carrie too makes her look younger, because I think they try to keep her very soft and naturalistic, and maybe the makeup was different for other actors, and maybe it's just how the actors look.
Yeah, for me, people like William Katz and Amy Irving, they seem like they were college students that were just hanging out in high school for whatever reason.
The one character in like the baseball cap, I kept thinking, wow, that teacher's dressed really weird.
And then I was surprised to learn that Betty Buckley, who plays the teacher, Miss Collins, is only 2 years older than Sissy Spacek at the time of the film. There are some iconic moments. I think my favorite visual is when Carrie walks outside of the school while the gym is on fire. That's a very haunting, very well done scene visually for me. What is some of your favorite visuals, Bradford?
Well, let me tell you. This movie is filled with, I think, just iconic visuals. Probably the most obvious example is Carrie White in her prom dress covered in blood. I think a lesser known one that I really like is the mom at the end when she's
Crucified?
She's crucified and she's sort of replicating Jesus.
All right, I want you to walk me through your interpretation of the split screen, because I was not a fan of the split screen, with the exception that it gets to show a lot of different things going on at once. But I remember feeling like it was kind of cheesy. So what do you think? Should I feel like it's cheesy, or should I be on board with the split screen?
I've gone back and forth about this, because objectively, like in a vacuum, I think that it works really well for the scene because it feels messy and chaotic, and like so many things are going on at the same time that you can't comprehend it all. And at the same time, Carrie is making these like sort of rapid, distinct eye movements that are signs of her telekinetically moving different things, and then you see the result of that and sort of the chaos that ensues. However, I feel like every other use of the split screen in movies has been associated with like heist films. I feel like because of that, because of how Hollywood uses the split screen, I think detracts from.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that it was the Ocean's 11 remakes that really sort of solidified that, but I might be wrong. And then it definitely makes me think of the Rick and Morty spoof of the heist.
Yeah. It's like when you watch that scene in Carrie, it almost, you're like, somebody should be flipping a coin in this split screen. Like sticking a toothpick in their mouth.
You son of a bitch, Carrie, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, if I can, I'm gonna try to do a little show the Carrie scene to play heist music.
That's great.
Let's talk about some little details that we like or don't like. A little detail that I don't like is I don't like how when they're getting ready for prom, and then all of a sudden it moves in fast forward. So the guys are having a good time and they just... And that feels so weird, and it's strange that they only do it once. So if you're going to do it, if you're going to have fast forward in a movie, it seems like you need to use the rule of 3 and have it in 3 scenes, or at least 2.
Or 0.
Or 0. That might be better.
Yeah, those 3 guys are in a different movie.
Yeah, they're having a good time in a different movie. Do you have any pet peeves?
I think maybe it's because I went into the movie knowing so much about it from pop culture, but the scene right before the bucket of blood happens feels immensely long to me, and maybe it's because like I know what's gonna happen, so I just want it to get there. But the scene where that one girl is behind the stage and she's like looking at the string and she's like, "What's this attached to?" And then they pan up and it's like, "It's the bucket." And there's like 10 different like inserts of like the bucket like sort of moving around while she like pulls it, just so you know that this string is attached to this bucket and it's this girl who's holding the string. It feels like that happens like 50 times before it happens.
It's a very slow reveal for the character. All right, enough complaining. Here's something that I loved: the film's final jump scare. Do you remember the first time you watched Carrie? Did that jump scare, did it surprise you, or did you know that was coming already because it had been given away, or it was just obvious?
I think it did surprise me, the hand coming up from it, and I like that. I think that's a well-crafted jump scare. Maybe I was scared because I was just like almost asleep by the time she got to the for sale sign.
It lulled you.
Yeah, I was like, ah!
I
Yeah.
remember being freaked out by it. I thought it was a pretty strong ending. Last little detail that we didn't mention: the creepy little Jesus closet room.
Oh, the Jesus chokey?
Yeah, the Jesus chokey. Oh, we haven't even talked about the Matilda connections. There's a chokey. There's a sad
young
little
girl who finds knowledge and hope in the library.
Right? She's in the library reading, and she's developing her powers, and she's gonna, teach the mean lady a lesson.
And in both movies they pick her up by her pigtails and throw her.
And in the little Jesus chokey, there's the little Jesus guy. You said he looked like a claymation guy.
Just his eyes, I think they retouched them or something, where it's like he's about to like blink and then start walking around like Wallace and Gromit.
I think his eyes are lit, right? So he must be like a little statue with a battery in it, right?
Probably, yeah. Like
the mom every couple months, like, oh, I have to change the Lord Savior's batteries.
Gotta keep him alive, yeah. Oh, and this isn't a pet peeve, but one scene that I didn't get to talk about was the like pig slaughtering scene. Half of it is kind of like, oh, these high schoolers are like doing something weird to hang out and have fun after school, and part of it is just like, oh, these teenage boys will murder an animal just to feel something.
Yeah, that's a good point. John Travolta is an interesting sort of bad guy character because he's really just doing it just to do it.
Slit this pig's throat or like chop this pig up with an axe, and he's like, okay, LOL, do I get to drive my car there?
Also, it's an interesting sort of plan where the girl bully,
yeah,
her plot is like, I want to humiliate Carrie White, so let's dump pig's blood on her. Because I think my go-to would be like red paint, maybe. Seems like that would be simpler.
Yeah, it's so elaborate
because it's
like she hasn't done any pranks before, and she's like, okay, we're gonna switch the votes, and we're gonna get her elected, and she's gonna stand specifically right exactly on this spot on the stage.
You know what? The way you described this, it actually is a heist movie.
yeah.
So this movie's, a good first movie to begin with because it's the first Stephen King movie. It's the first Stephen King novel. It's going to be on the top of our list. But what we're going to do next time is we are going to watch and review Salem's Lot, the Salem's Lot 2-part miniseries. And we're going to compare and contrast. We're going to find out which one is spookier. Have you seen Salem's Lot before?
No.
Okay. Do you have any idea what Salem's Lot is about?
Not really.
Okay. Well, you're going in with a blank slate then.
I was going to watch your video on it. And then...
No, don't watch it. Don't watch it yet. All right, fellow constant readers. I'm Bradford.
And I'm Bradford.
And this is Spooky Time with Bradford and Bradford. See you next time, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so scared right now.